Alright guys, so with the launch of Chapter 4, we have a brand new map, and I want to go over today the top 5 best solo drop spots for you guys to succeed in arena and tournaments. This is by far my favorite map other than the Chapter 1 map. I'm absolutely obsessed with every POI. I love the new layout, I love the size of it, I love the loot, I love pretty much everything about this map. Obviously I have problems with other part of the season, but the map is really good, and in today's video I want to cover the top 5 best solo drop spots. Now be sure to use code SonataYT in the Fortnite item shop if you guys do want to support me. Let's hop right into it. So if you guys don't know how my drop spots videos work, I'm going to be going from the smallest drop spot to the biggest one at the end. And to begin, I want to go over Secluded Spire. Now this is a drop spot that you guys are going to find in the central area of the map. It's going to be having 8 chests along with 2 king chests. And in terms of some stuff that you'll be finding here, you guys will find produce boxes, coolers, plenty of materials from trees, rocks, and metal structures. And you can also rotate to the gas station nearby and farm metal if you guys need as well. And from my experience landing here, it's most common for around 2 players to be contesting you at most. Now, the Secluded Spire is a really good drop spot for those of you guys that really want to try to play passive. It's a very small POI, it's pretty central so you won't have to rotate too far into zone. But I think it's really solid for people who like to land somewhere low-key, but a place that's not too hard to get out of if you need to. Zone's not really going to be as much of an issue here. Terrain isn't that bad either. You guys are going to have pretty good amounts of rotation considering the drop spot is central, but pretty much it's based on the RNG that you get here considering that this drop spot does have a few lesser chests than some of the other ones on this list. Secluded Spire is a really solid spot for those of you who are maybe newer players who want to land somewhere low-key and not really get into too many early game engagements. Now the second drop spot is going to be known as Pleasant Passage. This is one more central POI that you're going to be finding over to the western side of the map. Now Pleasant Passage is going to be having around 10 chests. It's going to have 1 king chest and then 1 hollow chest. If you guys don't remember, hollow chests are the chests that require keys that you can input in order to get weapons. It's also going to be having produce boxes, vending machines, and then plenty of materials once again from the trees, rocks, and metal structures. And once again, there's a gas station nearby that you could rotate to in order to farm more metal if you need it. And from my experience landing here, I believe that it's most common for around 2-ish players to be contesting you. That's roughly what I've experienced. However, it may differ from person to person. Now, I think Pleasant Passage is once again a really good drop spot for those of you that want to land somewhere a little bit low-key, but you're going to be having a little bit more loot here, along with the ability to very simply have an easy rotation to the center of any zone that you pretty much have. This POI is also going to be very close to major POIs such as Anvil Square. You're going to have pretty good access to the river. Overall, it's pretty easy to rotate out of here, so I wouldn't be too worried. And I think this POI is really good for those mid-tier players that are trying to really make it to the next level in terms of getting almost to a semi-pro level. So I'd recommend you land here if you're someone that doesn't have too much PR, someone that doesn't have too much comp experience, but definitely knows what they're doing in a competitive lobby. I think it's overall a really solid spot for those of you that want to try to land somewhere that has good rotation, and you're really not going to run into too many early and mid-game fights around here. Now, the next drop spot is going to be known as Proper Pastures. Now, this is one of my personal favorite drop spots. This is probably where I'm going to consider landing in most solo arena games that I want to try to land somewhere less contested. Now, Proper Pastures is going to be found near the southern part of the map, closer to Frenzy Fields. Proper Pastures is going to be having 14 chests. It's going to have 1 hollow chest, and along with some produce boxes, coolers, slurp kegs, and plenty of materials, you're also going to be able to rotate over to Frenzy Farm and farm metal if you guys need to, along with farming trees and rocks in order to get all of your materials situated. Rotation from this drop spot will be a bit difficult, considering that it is on the very edge of the map. However, once again, you do have proximity to a river. There are boats on this river that you guys can potentially use. You guys can get some slap juices and maybe pop those in order to sprint to zone. You can find some areas to rotate through Frenzy Fields. There's a bunch of different options for you guys to rotate out of here, which makes this POI not too difficult to actually get out of. It's most common for around 2 to 3 players to be contesting you from my experience. However, that's not even very likely, considering that most of these lobbies are starting to get more spread out with where people are going around the map. Proper Pastures is a very solid spot for those of you guys that want to have a very good POI that's a little bit less contested, that also has a good amount of mats and has a good amount of benefits for you guys around the area. I would compare this to the Chapter 2 POI of the Orchard. It's pretty similar considering the layout of the buildings, the types of loot that you're going to get, the amount of loot that's here. I think it's a really solid place. So overall, I think Proper Pastures is a really good spot for those of you guys who are a little bit better competitive players, but that still want to land somewhere a little bit more low-key. And now the fourth drop spot is going to be known as Crude Harbor. Now Crude Harbor is going to be found near the northern part of the map. This is going to be a place that's very close to POIs such as Brutal Bastion. However, it is going to be on, once again, the very edge of the map. The reason I really like edge of the map POIs for solos is because I feel like it's a little bit easier to rotate out of them in solos. It's just you yourself, so you're able to very easily and efficiently get around people. And the really good part about this POI is that it's going to be able to block you off from the rest of the lobby, considering that there are mountains right in front of it. Now at Crude Harbor, you're going to be having around 17 chests, 1 hollow chest, also produce boxes, coolers, slurp trucks, vending machines, extra slurp kegs if you guys need them, and then plenty of materials from trees, rocks, and metal structures in the area. This is one of the most commonly rich metal POIs. You're not really going to need to rotate anywhere else in order to get metal. You're pretty much going to be able to get all of it from this POI. And then once again, from my experience, I believe there's going to be around 2 to 3 players contesting you at most. However, even that is not very likely. Now, Crude Harbor is one of my favorite POIs simply because it reminds me of a place like Dirty Docks. I think one of the best parts about this POI is that you're able to loot it really quickly, considering the layout is pretty simple. It's just pretty much one building and then a bunch of scattered chests around the area. You can just find a little bit of a loot route, go around in a circle, and then loot this POI very quickly, which makes it very easy to get out and rotate on time. And you can even use attributes of the biome such as ice, or maybe that wind tunnel to rotate out of the area and properly place yourself around the map. Crude Harbor is very solid for those of you guys that are better players that actually want to land somewhere with a bit more loot, maybe have a couple of off-spawn fights if you do land here. I think it's really solid because it's going to be one of the more contested edge map POIs, considering that there isn't too many small unnamed POIs in the center of the map. Overall, I think this is a really solid spot. It has a lot of really good Chapter 4 benefits. But now let's get into the final POI, which is going to be an actual named location. Now guys, this POI is going to be known as Faulty Splits. Faulty Splits is arguably my favorite POI of the entire brand new season. This is going to be pretty close to Secluded Spire that I mentioned at the start. However, Faulty Splits is going to be having over 40 chests. You're also going to be having 1 king chest, 1 hollow chest, produce boxes, coolers, vending machines, slurp kegs, plenty of materials from trees and rocks, and metal structures in the POI. However, the only drawback is that there will be around 6 to 8 players probably contesting you from my experience. Now, you're definitely not going to be uncontested at this POI. It's pretty unlikely, especially considering that this is a brand new chapter and there's a bunch of new changes that have been implemented and people want to check them out. But Faulty Splits is really one of the best named POIs. It's not too big so that it'll draw too much attention, but it's really good because it has the best of both worlds. If you land here, you're going to get a little bit of the grass biome and then a little bit of the savanna biome. It's very simple to land here and actually get very good loot. And it also has a capture point, which is something I mentioned in my previous video, which is basically a place where you can go and you can capture a little objective that will drop you loot and make sure that you are good for the rest of the game. You will also be able to see all of the chests through the walls, which will help you loot quite a bit. This POI is really solid for those of you that are very experienced comp players that want to land at a really good named location. It's one of the better ones within this brand new season. Once again, like I said, you're never really going to be running low on loot here. But what really does matter is where you land within this POI and exactly how to play it. That's something you're going to have to learn for yourself, considering that these POIs are all brand new. Nobody's really had the real time to learn them. I would recommend from my experience that you guys try to land on the higher elevation area of it. That's what's going to ideally help you out in the long run. But Faulty Splits is the best named POI. And those are overall the 5 best POIs in my opinion for those of you guys to land at. Regardless of your skill level, you can pick one and you will most likely succeed in any solo game mode that you are playing. Anyways, guys, that is the video on the 5 best solo drop spots of Chapter 4. If you guys did enjoy, please consider dropping a like and subscribing to the channel down below. I really did enjoy making this video considering that this new chapter seems pretty good. I mean, obviously, apart from stuff like the weapon meta, that's a big issue in my opinion. The map is very solid, and I think that this video will really help you guys out with deciding where to land. But that's about it for this video, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.